Hey guys, I'm guessing Mummy did let you stay up to listen to Daddy for another chapter. So I'm going to go straight into chapter 18. Okay, my George's boys, your heads down. Good boys, love you very much. Chapter 18. Finn woke, blinking against the sunlight that pierced a gap in his bedroom curtains and fell directly on his eyes. From way down in the house he could hear drilling again. Squeak! A pulse, then another, then quiet. Sticking his feet in a pair of oversized slippers shaped like grizzly bears, he shuffled downstairs, meeting his mother on the way, out to a Saturday morning dental clinic. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, stifling a yawn. "I wish it was, Finn," she said. "I'm tired, and that racket your dad was making all night woke me up early." Thankfully, a busy morning of staring into people's rotting dental cavities will be just the thing to perk me up. She grabbed her keys and left. A moment later, the doorbell rang. "What did you forget, ma'am?" Finn asked as he opened the door. "Nice slippers," said Emmy. "Did you kill those in a hunt?" Finn half hid behind the door while Emmy waited outside, jumping about to keep warm on the crisp morning. Eventually she gave him a look and said, "Aren't you going to let me in?" And he let her in. Then he darted upstairs to get some proper clothes on. He reopened his bedroom door to find her standing right outside it. "What's your bedroom like, Finn?" she asked, walking straight past him to have a look at herself. "Whoa, I thought my bedroom was messy." She spotted the goldfish and gave its glass a tap. "What's his name?" "Bubbles," Finn answered. "I was younger when I got him," he added in response to Emmy's giggle. "What are you reading? Is this The Most Great Lives?" Needing two hands, she picked up the large book, only for other smaller books hidden inside to fall out between its pages. Before Finn could get to it, she had already grabbed it. "So you want to be a vet?" she said. "You want to be a vet?" "No, yes, well, maybe," said Finn. "Aren't you supposed to be?" "I don't know killing creatures rather than wrapping them in bandages." She handed the book back to him. "Like I didn't see too many stethoscopes in those portraits downstairs," she said, now noisily scanning the things on his windowsill. "Maybe I won't be like the others on the wall," said Finn. "Really? Thought you'd had no choice, Finn. You know, only sons of legend hunters can become legend hunters and all that." "Yeah, well, maybe it's because..." Finn was struggling to find the words to explain himself. He hadn't talked about it before. "What?" Emmy prompted him. "Well, sometimes it feels like maybe I could be different sort of legend hunter than the others. Like I'm learning all about these incredible creatures, but the only thing I'm supposed to do is fight them when I see them. Couldn't there be another way to deal with them that doesn't mean hurting them? Like my mum does it, for instance. She helps people with their teeth. I mean, some sort of things really, but just different animals, aren't they, these legends? Do we have to desiccate them all?" "A legend hunter and a vet," said Emmy. "What does your dad think about that?" "From what you've told me about him, I can't imagine he's going to be too happy." Finn's silence gave her the answer. "Oh, sorry," she said, then changed the subject by grabbing the 8-limbed cuddly toy off his windowsill that looked pretty dangerous. "He's got cute fans and all." Finn needed something to rescue his pride, so he blurted out, "I have something better than that," and he slid open the drawer, shielding his underpants as best he could, and unwrapped the crystal and held it out. Low morning sun reflected off it in a dozen directions, and Emmy's eyes widened. "Let me hold it," she said, and he passed it over to her, and she turned it in her hands, running her finger across its edges and feeling its surprising lightness. "It came from a legend," said Finn. "You're holding a part of another world." She gasped just a little at that, and the approved grin gave Finn a sort of confidence. "How did you get it?" she asked. "It was in a minotaur's nose." "Oh, gross," she explained, dropping on his bed. From somewhere in the house, Finn heard heavy steps. He grabbed the crystal back and threw it into the drawer, Nice underpants, exclaimed Emmy. And just like that, Finn's moment of triumph was lost once more. Come on, he said, ushering her out again. I'd better eat. I only just got up. As they came downstairs, the panels on the narrow door to the long hall flashed simultaneously, and with a clunk it opened. Finn's father emerged, carrying what appeared to be half a vacuum cleaner in his arms, exposed wires trailing past his hips. Oh, hello, he said, stopping in the doorway, clearly surprised to see a stranger in the house. Dad, this is Emmy. She's a new girl, a friend from school. A girlfriend? No, Finn shot back. Just a friend. Oh, don't mind him, said Finn's dad. He's very grouchy in the mornings. Very nice to meet you, Emmy. Hello, mister. She seemed to be struggling to think of how to address him, as if Mr. the Great didn't sound quite right. Finally, she settled on, hello, Finn's dad. Hugo will be cool. Cool, thought Finn. What's my dad using the word cool for? So, what are you kids up to? His dad asked. Kids? Finn would have been happy if the whole world left him alone that morning, but his dad's disappearance would be a fine start. Come on, Emmy, let's go, Finn said, starting for the kitchen in the futile hope he could cut short this terrible conversation. What brought your family to Darkmouth, Emmy? Finn's dad asked, readjusting his hold on the machine. Well, work. My dad's work. It's just me and him. What does he do? He's a consultant, techie things, she said, pulling her fringe forward with one hand. I don't really understand it, to be honest. Phone lines, I think. And Finn's dad nodded. Well, sounds fascinating. Did Finn tell you what we do? Finn's brain was screaming at him to stop talking right now, this very instant. I'm in what might be called pest control. Enough, Dad. Yeah, said Emmy, energising again. I know all about it. Really? Oh, yeah, from books and stuff. Books? Asked Finn's father, curious. Well, Finn's book, upstairs. And from Finn too. He told me so much. Finn wondered if his look of embarrassment if he looked as embarrassed as he felt. Anyway, well, welcome to Dartmouth, Emmy, said Finn's father. Don't let the bedbugs bite. Bedbugs? Oh, God. Finn, I've got to go out to get something to look for. Are you okay on your own? To show just how excruciating this was for all of them, Finn rolled his eyes so far he could almost see the inside of his skull. His dad finally headed out and Finn gave an overblown sigh of relief. But just when he thought it was safe, his dad popped his head back into the house. Finn, give your fighting suit a wipe, will you? It's beginning to smell like the family cat lives in it. Emmy laughed. Finn's mouth opened in silent frustration. He needed to find something to rescue the situation quickly. Suddenly he knew what it was. Do you want to see something? He said. Something really good. Emmy hadn't time to answer before. He pressed the panel on the door to the long corridor, and she followed as quickly as she could down the corridor, ignoring the long line of portraits and headed straight for the door at the very end, only hesitating when he reached the destination. Well, I'm not really supposed to go in here, he said, pointing to the door marked library. All right then, she said, then screwed her foot into the floor a bit. I mean, if you're scared of your dad, I understand. That was all it took to persuade Finn to open the door. Beyond it was a space unlike any library she could have imagined. The round room, was massive, stretching high into the pitch of the roof, crowded shelves covering almost every piece of the wall. At points along the edges of the floor, full suits of armour stood at attention, complete with spears and swords and shields. At the centre were a couple of large cluttered desks, and near these were two domed cages, one about Emmy's height and another big enough to fit several adults inside, including some on each other's shoulders. Looming over both was a wide object covered with sheets. Finn stood back, letting her take it all in. She moved towards the desks, one of which had a computer on it with a screensaver, scrolling through a selection of images. A horned skull, an illustration of an old woman with leather wings, A photo of Finn as a toddler, grinning and holding an oversized sword, while his father, laughing, waved some fierce little creature in his direction. She moved to the covered object. He was about the height of a grown man and as wide as two. Scattered on the floor around it were various tools, batteries, an electrical fan, the drum of a washing machine, a kettle, what looked like the blade from a food blender, and other bits and pieces. As they got closer to it, Finn could feel a low electric hum radiating through the floor and tingling his toes. "What's this?" Emmy asked. This, presumably, is what Finn's dad had been working on all those hours at night. Finn had no idea what it was, but didn't want to admit that. So he rummaged through his mind for something that would make it sound like he knew what he was talking about. It just came out in a bit of a gurgle. Oh wow, do you want to see the room? The big picture. Here you go. You see? And there's the desk and the two cages and the big round wall with all the things still on it. And Finn and Emmy. Cool, eh? Emmy began to lift the sheet for a look. Before she got too far, though, her attention was caught by something else on the shelves, a collection of glass jars of various sizes and shapes. She reached out and lifted one with a hard ball rattling around inside, and she read the handwriting label aloud. Gargoyle, adult, approximately 5 foot, Darkmouth, 13th of the 2nd, 1963. 1963, so that's 73, 83, 93, 2003, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's 54 years old. She picked up another two. It contained a hard ball with a label on it reading Griffin, 4 foot, span 6 foot, Dartmouth, 1st of the 5th, 1946. That's 70 years old. Wowee. She checked another, a Grendel, then another, a Dodmadod. She looked up and around. The shelves were lined with jar after jar of various sizes and shapes, stretching high to the ceiling and halfway around the room. Each contained a hard ball, sometimes leathery, sometimes furry or feathered or hairy, but almost always perfectly spherical. "They're legends," said Finn at last. This was something he knew all about. Decades, maybe centuries worth of legends. They're trapped, collected and stored here. Emmy picked up one jar from a small table beside the shelf, not yet far away. Finn could see one word on it, Hodboon. "Are they alive?" "Well, sort of. They're dormant, really." "There must be hundreds here," said Emmy. 3,029 to be accurate, said Finn's father, from right behind her. "And we wouldn't want you to be number 3030, would we?" Uh-oh. Finn's dad came home and caught them. Right, that's the end of chapter 18. Nearly 15 minutes, so I can't talk for any longer than that. Otherwise I can't download. Alright, my lovely boys, sleep tight now. Love you very much. See you soon. Night night.